What is the purpose of education? To be able to imagine, to be able to dream and convert that dream into reality. We have 30 crore students in our school system and higher educational system.
How much?
30 crores.
Wow.
After the British left, they created an educational system which made us believe that getting educated means getting a government job. They took our culture, they took our pulses, they took our knowledge. That is how our mindset was built immediately after the independence. The NEP 2020, therefore, says that we need to redesign our educational system right from the school education to the higher education.
Imagine a college education in India where when you get out of school, you decide to pursue a science degree. And midway through, you feel like, no, this is really not for me, and I want to do history. Imagine a college education where you didn't get a chance to finish your degree and you had to go back home, tier 3 city, and be a potter or be a farmer. And then the experience you've accumulated doing that profession contributes towards your college degree when you want to go back and finish your education. All of this is possible. I know it sounds really idealistic, but today I had a conversation with Jagadesh Kumar ji, the chairman of UGC, which is a Universities Grants Commission. They are the regulatory body that govern universities around the country. And all of these things that I just mentioned are going to play out and pan out in the next couple of years. In addition to that, we will also have all the leading international institutes coming into India. How is that going to change the education system? Well, today I can decide to do 2 credits in India or 2 semesters in India and then go abroad and finish my balanced 2 semesters somewhere else, internationally. So suddenly you're getting cross-cultural and global experience in just your college education. All of this is what we spoke about in the conversation, and trust me, this is the closest I've ever been to an IIT professor and a JNU chancellor. Lots of other things as well, but listen in and tell me what you thought of the conversation. Looking forward. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. I'm thrilled to have you, sir, on Pragyaan. I know you've been really out there talking to the media and also on other podcasts, but I think I have massive respect for someone like you who comes out and is willing to answer the hard questions, which hopefully are going to be many. Because very often than not, we just know what we know from the press, but I think a podcast kind of format allows us to go in depth into various topics which hopefully we'll be covering. I think I just want to quickly start off with, you mentioned you were in IIT Madras and then after that you went to Canada and then you've been in India since 1995. And I'd love to hear your experience about just studying in India and then moving abroad, because there's a complete contrast in terms of how learning happens in educational institutes. Okay. So what did you really take away and bring back in your experience here locally?
There is absolutely no doubt that our educational system has contributed significantly to the growth of our country. And it has produced so many people in diverse areas who have been contributing for the development of our country. Mm-hmm. And they are there across the globe also. Today, our diaspora is pride of our country. The way we have built our digital public infrastructure today and how we are taking the financial inclusivity of every Indian so seriously. And all these things are happening only because we have Indians who have come out of this educational system. And this educational system is very, very diverse. We have top-class institutions which are globally recognized, but we also have institutions which are located in remote areas of our country, in rural areas, and then trying to bring people in those inaccessible regions also into the mainstream of our country. So the educational system in our country has played a significant role. But however, time has come now for us that ultimately what is our goal as a country? If you look at the bigger picture of our country, all of us, we want our country to be prosperous. We want our country to be secure. We want to build world-class infrastructure. We want to make sure that the per capita income of every Indian grows. We want the manufacturing base to become world-class. That is nationally within the country. But globally, we want to become a leading country in terms of technological advances, in terms of contributing to the global peace, climate change. So many other things where India wants to lead. And that can happen only when we look into our educational system and say, all right, so far we have produced so many good people. Can we scale it up? Can we produce more such people and make sure that every Indian who wants to be a learner is part of our educational system? And when we looked at that issue, then we found that there are some issues that we need to plug in our educational system. For example, we focus more on rote learning in our classrooms. We don't recognize that students have different cognitive abilities. They have different aspirations. Not everybody wants to become a scientist or engineer. They want to become a media person. They want to become a small entrepreneur. They want to run a small business. We need to recognize these differences in the aspirations of the students. And at the same time, we also had to make sure that the capacity building of our teachers is done. Because as teaching community, we come from a generation where we never understood the importance of working in teams. We never understood the importance of challenging the status quo. We wanted to make our students conformists, right? I teach from this book and you study and you pass. We never allowed them. Our ecosystem was like that in our schools and the colleges and universities, that if a student stands up and asks a question which is inconvenient to the teacher, I mean, you can see the follow-up of that.
Yes, I've been that student, so I know what that feels like.
Right? So definitely, there are things that need to be improved in our educational system. And that's the reason why in 2020, we launched the National Education Policy 2020. And by implementing various reforms which have been suggested in NEP 2020, we want to make sure that the educational system in our country is of world class. And NEP 2020 is aimed at achieving the goals that we have set for ourselves. What are the goals? 3 important goals. We want to make our education learning outcomes based. It should not be linked to a degree or the marks or the grades that you get, but the learning outcomes should be the central focus. And 2, as I said, today there is so much of information that is available to the students. And so many new technologies are coming. In a typical classroom earlier, a teacher would come and teach and assume that all students are identical. They will take the notes and pass the examinations. But today, there is increased awareness that we need to provide personalized education to the students. We need to provide individualized education to the students. And today that is possible because there is so much of technology with artificial intelligence coming into our lives. We can build technological platforms which will provide the education that is required for the students using technology alone. The third most important thing is that today our educational system is one of the largest educational systems in the world.
Yeah.
We have 30 crore students in our school system and higher educational system.
How much?
30 crores.
Wow. Yeah.
And with the goal of increasing our GER to 50%, this number is going to rise very rapidly. So therefore, while we want to focus on learning outcomes based education, personalized and individualized education, we also had to provide this education on a mass scale. Every student who wants to study should be able to study. So how will you do that? By not depending on the physical mode of education alone. Because during last 100 years, We are able to build about 1100 universities, 45,000 colleges, but in a shorter duration, the number of students is going to double. Can we also double the physical mode of education? So therefore, we need to look at other ways of reaching out to the students. And that's the reason why we are now focusing on digital education, online education. People might say that there is no replacement for a real classroom experience. I completely agree with that. But if you are an idealist and you think that that is the only way of imparting education, look at crores of other students, either because of the financial reasons, family reasons, or other reasons. If they are not able to come to a university and a college and get educated, where will they go? What will be their future? As a country, is it not our collective responsibility? All right, I may not be able to provide you the idealized classroom experience to you, but at least the next best thing that I can provide to you. You don't have to come to a city and then rent out a room and go to the university and study. If that is what is the limitation for you, I will bring high quality education to your doorstep. You sit at home, study, do other things, and become skilled and knowledgeable so that you can participate in diverse kind of economic activities, right? The days of looking only for becoming an engineer or a doctor, they are gone today. There are multiple opportunities for the students to use their inner potential, to function at the maximum of their potential and excel in multiple kinds of diverse areas. And that is what we want to do today.
No, fantastic. I think what you're sharing, sounds incredible. I also see the various challenges that will prop up as you think about executing this on the ground. And I think while you spoke about the aspiration of the country, and I think that's a collective aspiration, I think somebody who's sitting in a tier 2, tier 3 city today still believes that what is this college education really going to give me? And today when there are many opportunities like you mentioned yourself, where I can either, become a content creator, and I'm not saying everyone aspires to be that, but I feel like there are many other options that are emerging. And while those are great, I also want to understand, how is it college education really making people ready for what the world is going to give to them as they get out of, or rather move into adulthood, right? So what does that look like? And what are you seeing in terms of challenges that are taking place?
You see, after the British left, they created an educational system which made us believe that getting educated means getting a government job, getting a clerical job, or doing some administrative work. That is how our mindset was built immediately after the independence. But today we are far away from that kind of mindset. Just this morning I was meeting an old student. And he said, sir, I'm an entrepreneur now. I haven't taken up any job. So I am employing others. So today our younger people are willing to take risks. They are much more courageous than perhaps the previous generations in taking risks. And we see the result of that. Today, India is the third largest ecosystem for startup companies. And we have more than 90,000 startup companies in our country, more than 100 unicorns. And how is that happening? That is happening because today youngsters are aware that there are no set jobs, because 50 years ago you could predict after 10 years what kinds of jobs are going to come. Today we know that in next couple of years the present skills that I have may not provide me a good job after 2 years, because newer kinds of jobs are coming and which require newer skills. So therefore, one of the biggest challenges for us now is, if our youngsters have to be lifelong learners, how do we provide that opportunity to them? And also we need to make this learning aspirational. For example, why should I say that a student has to study in a degree program and study for 3 years continuously? What if the student wants to take a break after 2 years, go experiment something, come back and continue? We have no such system at all. But today we are introducing that. We have introduced now multi-entry, multi-exit scheme in our higher education. Students can go out, experiment, and come back and continue their education. Right?
That's fantastic.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing. Recently in OpenAI, when there was a turmoil, after a few days, of course, the top management, Satya Nadella and others, they managed to settle the issue. And then Satya Nadella, he issued a statement. He said, during the past few days, I realized that the biggest privilege of my job is to work with people who are driven by mission. And he said, during the last few days when this turmoil was going on, I observed people in OpenAI working with that calmness, working with a resolve, driving their mission in spite of whatever is happening around them. Satya Nadella, he did not underline the technical expertise of the people in OpenAI. Of course, that's given. They must have the technical expertise. But he was emphasizing on the other skills that are required if you want to become successful. So today, therefore, it is not just providing high quality education to our students, it is also important for them to experiment, to learn by doing things, and to get into situations where they actually fail. And when they fail, they learn from them. So developing these soft skills of how do you handle a crisis by remaining calm, by remaining resolute, right? This is one aspect.
Yeah.
So today, are we imbibing these values to our students? And NEP 2020, therefore, says that we need to redesign our educational system right from the school education to the higher education. So I keep now telling the teachers that please don't try to be a teacher anymore. You try to be a good mentor to our students.
No, I mean, I think that's a really, really tall goal, I think, from what you're sharing. And, I think there's a long road to be traveled on that to achieve that. And I'm not in any way being critical here, but I'm just trying to push you on what the other side of the picture is, which is that today when we come out of our class 12th, we are still coming with a certain kind of mindset, which, like you said, is around, can I really mug? Can I get 99% for me to get into that Delhi University that I need to, the college that I need to get into, whether that's SRCC or Stephens or the top institutes? To folks who are listening to this, even in tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? How do they really believe that what you're saying is going to be a reality to them when they really want to get into college education?
We need to ensure that students, they have certain potential, and each student has a different potential. And as I said, somebody can be a good writer, somebody can be a good runner, somebody can be a good media person. So, but when will the students come to know that they are good at something? It cannot happen at a very early age, right? But because of the peer pressure, somebody may try to prepare for JEE, but later, after cracking JEE, when they join in IIT, they may think that, well, I'm a student of electrical engineering now, but this is not my cup of tea. Millions of students, they at some point they do not know what they can do. Young student passing 12th standard, how they know at that young age what they would like to become in future. So now what will happen is that they will choose certain disciplines which they may or may not like because somebody else advised, uncle, auntie or father, mother advised, they study that. And then when they pass out 12th standard, when they realize that this is not the subject that I want to pursue, and then they apply to some university. Now look at the situation now. The university say, no, you studied this subject in your 12th standard, and now you want to apply to this another discipline? No, you're not eligible. The door is closed. Yeah. So this is where I think we need to change our educational system. Give the opportunity to the students to choose as they grow. As their awareness increases, if they want to switch from one discipline to the other discipline, why not we permit them? So this is something that we are trying to achieve now through what is known as the National Credit Framework. And this is an outcome of the NEP 2020.
Okay.
So in National Credit Framework, what we are saying is that encourage the students to acquire multidisciplinary knowledge. I'll give you an example. Let us say I have studied commerce in my 12th standard. And now I find that I want to study biology. Why not the university admit me in biology, right? Yes, if I can demonstrate my competency by writing a national level entrance exam in biology or an entrance exam conducted by the university, and the university is convinced that I have the required competencies, forget about in which discipline I studied so far, you admit me in biology. Now, I study my undergraduation, post-graduation in biology. Now, I want to do, let's say, data analytics. Why can't I be encouraged to switch the discipline? Now, imagine the combination. I study data analytics and I study biology. Now I can become a computational biologist.
Yeah.
And but our system doesn't permit it all. So therefore, we are going to change that, and through a formal system of this national credit framework, we will bring many of these changes so that even if I have studied, let's say, engineering, I decide that engineering is not my cup of tea, I may become a lawyer. I may become, let's say, an international relations expert. So these kind of opportunities are possible now. The idea here is to provide a broader perspective of the world around us to our students. We do not want to make them super specialists in any given area. Some academicians will say, today there is a greater need for experts. We need to deeply study something and become an expert in that. I'm not saying that we should not become experts. But even if you become an expert, would you like to have a tunnel vision, or would you like to have a broader perspective of the world? Let's say I'm a medical doctor and I want to focus only on medicine. But in addition to that, suppose I also study other subjects which may or may not be directly related to medicine. That will open up my perspective of the world in which I am living. And that's the idea of NEP 2020, to provide a broader understanding of the world by encouraging our students to take up multidisciplinary education.
Yeah. I think I also want to talk about the demographic dividend that India has, that we are the youngest population and we have immense potential. If you want to become that $1 trillion economy, we need that everyone participates in that and contributes. And the only way that can happen is that we are, as young people in India, also job ready and contributing as soon as we join the workforce.
Right.
And for that, you need various skills.
Right.
And if you're not able to do that, then that can really flip on us in the way that, youngsters can, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. And you are seeing a lot of that converting into, criminal behavior or scamming or other sorts of shortcuts that people are taking because they don't have the opportunity to really use their skills in the right place. So what are some of the things that you're thinking about where, once people are getting out of universities or college institutes, that they are job ready and that there are other side institutions or professional organizations waiting to take them on and place them?
Right. The issue that you have raised is a serious problem today in our educational system. The industry or the employers require certain skills from the students, but the educational institutions do not provide those skills. So there is a huge gap. And how do we make our students ready to tackle the challenges that are there in the real world, right? Because students study, when they study in an educational system, they are cared, they are taken care by their parents, they have nice friends, good teachers, a secure campus, they are living in an ideal world. But once they pass out and they get into the real world, they soon realize that it's a non-ideal world.
Yeah.
And this non-ideal world, I'm not saying in the sense that it's a bad world. Non-ideal world has both challenges and opportunities. So how do you prepare our students to become problem solvers and solution providers when they encounter a challenge in the real world. And at the same time, how do we train our students to recognize the opportunities that are coming in front of them? You see, opportunities do not come all the time. They are coming in front of you, and unless you are quick, unless you are trained to recognize that opportunity and grab that, the opportunities will pass away.
Yeah.
So, therefore, there is a greater need to build this resilience in our students and also train them. Now, how do we do that? So, one of them is that, first of all, what is the purpose of education? The purpose of education is to be able to imagine, to be able to dream, and convert that dream into reality. That is the purpose of education. So, how do I do that? How can I dream and convert that into reality? For that, first of all, I need to recognize what are my inner potentials. And often it's not easy to recognize our own inner potential. Sometimes it may happen accidentally. You're in a party and suddenly somebody said you sing a song, and you sing, and all your friends say, you're such a great singer. We never heard you sing like this, and you suddenly recognize that you're a great singer. Accidentally it can happen. And other times it will happen when you look into yourself. We need to try different things, and then when you try different things, you see that you have that natural inclination to do certain things, and you soon find that, well, this is what I would like to do. And we need to provide this opportunity to our students to recognize their inner potential. And the next one is that even if I know that I can run very well, unless I practice, unless I set a goal for myself, I won't be able to achieve anything. So how do I motivate my students to make sure that they function at the top of their potential? And this is where the teacher's role will come into picture, right? As I said in the beginning, they need to be mentors, but the teachers also must have certain qualities. Because you see, every time I enter the classroom, if I have 100 students, 200 pairs of eyes are watching you, right? How you walk into the classroom, how you hold the duster, how you clean it. And when a student asks, how you respond to that, constantly you are sending out signals and messages to the students, and students are learning this. And therefore, teachers play a very, very important role in making the students to understand their potential and function at their fullest potential. So that is why I think capacity building of the teachers have to be done. And the teachers, it is not enough to have a deeper understanding of their discipline. They may be experts in their discipline, but they need to be effective communicators. When I say effective communicators, can you think of the greatest communicator that comes to our mind?
I mean, many.
Many, right? But there is one greatest communicator, that is Sri Krishna.
Yeah.
Sri Krishna, in the middle of the battleground, Arjuna and Sri Krishna were standing and two armies were facing, and Arjuna threw out the weapons and said, Krishna, I am not going to fight. These are all my grandfathers, my brothers and known people. How can I kill all of them? And then a long discussion takes place between them. And Krishna was able to communicate effectively to do what is required. And in the end, what Krishna says, Arjuna, I have told you whatever is required to be told to you. But now you decide what you want to do.
Yeah, it's your decision.
It is your decision. And that is what our teachers have to do. You give the required information, the required knowledge, impart to them, but let the students decide what they want to do, how they want to experiment with this knowledge, and observe them grow. That should be the role of the teacher. Be a good communicator and motivate your students to do the best in their life. That is one. The second one, of course, is that teachers also had to be good motivators. How is that? Because often students may not realize their own inner potential. I recollect the story from Ramayana. When Ram, Lakshman, and the entire monkey Sena were going to find Sita, they reach a dead end, and then there is a huge ocean there. How to go to go and meet Sita? And everybody was down, and they didn't know what to do. And then Angad, who was leading this team, he looks around. Jambo also was there. Jambavant was there.
Yes.
Jambavant, when he looks around, Hanuman was sitting there, completely stressed, lost in his own thoughts. That's what happens with many of our students, They are so much stressed. But Jambavant goes and tells Hanuman, you have immense potential within yourself. You need to stand up. And Lord Ram has given you the ring to pass on to Sita because Lord Ram has had trust in you. Stand up, rise to the occasion. Hanuman listens, and then he becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and finally he goes to Lanka, and you know the rest of the story.
Yeah.
So all teachers had to be like this Jambavant. Motivate your students.
And inspire them.
Inspire them so that they recognize their inner potential and grow in their life.
So you were a teacher before when you took this role, right?
Yes.
And I want to hear from you on some of these things that you've shared. Did you see how you were able to implement that in your classroom and the results that it got you?
Oh, right. Certain values and the character that we develop, we imbibe them by watching people around us, and teachers, our parents, play an important role. When you get into corporate world, very soon you will realize that being punctual is very important. Chalta hai, 10 minute mein aa jaunga. That will not work.
वो 10 मिनट 2 घंटे हो जाते हैं. मतलब आप मुझसे पूछिए आजकल deadlines are not deadlines anymore.
Right. So, one of the things in my teaching experience during last more than 30 years or so, I've been teaching at IIT Delhi. Not once I went to my lecture hall late. I'm always 10 minutes ahead of my class time. And my students are observing. And you can see almost 95% of the students, they come to my class on time. I never told them you have to be punctual. But they themselves learn it, right? So
because you act that value, so they can see it.
We act that value. And another important thing that teachers must possess is empathy and compassion, right? We should not be too much rule-based. These are young people. They tend to commit mistakes sometimes. They tend to violate certain things, right? So can you be compassionate? Can you give another chance for the student to improve upon whatever they have committed? I'll give you one example. When I was in JNU during COVID period, I was teaching at IIT. These were online classes, and one student, he attended the first class, but after that he disappeared. And at the end of the semester, when I was conducting online exam for the end semester exam, this student turned up. So, and I maintained the record of the student. So I knew this student was absent all this whole semester. I asked him, how can I permit you to write the end semester exam? So the student requested, sir, you please permit me. After the exam, I will talk to you. So I said, okay, you write the exam. And after the exam, I had a separate Zoom meeting with the student. Almost spent half an hour talking to the student. And I came to know that the student was suffering from TB. He was diagnosed with TB. And he was running around hospitals. And he was final year student. And he already had a job. If he failed in my course, that would have been the end of his career. I thought, thank God I permitted him.
Yeah.
If I followed only the rules and I said, no, I cannot permit you, what would have happened to him? And today he is doing very well. I think as teachers, this is what gives us a lot of satisfaction, that as a teacher, I could play a role in molding the thought process of my student. And today you see the student where he or she is and how they are contributing. And that's the reason why we should never consider teaching profession as any other job. Teaching profession is a very, very noble profession. And as I said in the beginning, what is the bigger objective of our country? We want to be prosperous and so on. We want to be a socially cohesive, developed country. But how will we realize that? We realize that through our youth contribution. And where are these youth coming from? They are coming from our educational institutions. They are coming from other institutions such as ITIs and other skill centers. And they are going to build our new India. And who is interacting day in and day out with these young people? It is the teachers.
Yeah.
Therefore, teachers play a very, very significant role. And in India, of course, teachers are given so much of respect. I sometimes become very emotional when I meet my former students, and then they tell me about their experiences and they recollect. I become very emotional that I'm so lucky that I have been a teacher.
Yeah. No, you're so right, sir, that in all of our lives, I think, teachers have contributed to who we are. And I think those pivotal moments in our life, most of us think back to. I mean, I have mine, and I'm sure you've heard many from your students as well.
Yes.
And teachers also reflect the quality of society and the character building that happens for young people during that time. But still, you're seeing, at least in our country, unlike when you see abroad, I mean, I'll just take the US, of course, that's a very high example, but you are so well taken care of and so well paid if you're a professor at Harvard or Stanford or at Yale.
Mm-hmm.
And even today, if you look at our top institutes, to become a professor or a teacher is never the top 3 options for most people as a career choice, isn't it? And I think if you don't have the best people doing the teaching, how do you expect the next set of people, like you said, who are going to be in these educational institutes to really contribute in the most effective way? So are there any thoughts or anything that you are doing or thinking about so that teachers become much more effective, and also that becomes an aspirational profession, which currently I don't think it is at this point, at least?
I agree and disagree with you on this count, because
I love that.
because I have come across teachers who are so committed and who have changed the lives of the students, and they were highly educated. They could have stayed back in countries like US or wherever and become top professors there, but they have come back to India and they stayed here at the kind of the salaries that we get. But what I have seen in some of the best institutions, such as the IIT system or some of the central universities and some of the great state universities, once they join there, I have rarely seen these teachers leaving their job. They continue to work until the end of their career, because of the immense satisfaction that you get by interacting with these young and challenging kids, and then the satisfaction that you get. This is the part that I agree with you. And the other side of thing is that today there are also many more opportunities that are coming on the way, and many people they may not like to become a teacher. They would like to contribute in some other ways. So therefore, they are moving away. But at the same time, I would not say that people who are not qualified are selected for teaching profession, because that will also, undermining our own teachers who are currently in the university system. The fact that in IITs today, we have close to 30% of vacancies.
Yes.
Right? Even in central universities, we have close to 30% of vacancies. We could have just filled up those positions. The reason why we are constantly searching for people, advertising and re-advertising, is because we want to bring only those people who have that bent of being in the teaching profession. So in the process, what happens, the remaining 70% of the people, they're actually taking extra commitments, extra responsibilities to move our educational system forward. But I do agree that is everybody who is entering the educational system equipped to become a good teacher? Not necessarily, because often if I look back at my own career, when I joined in 1995 in December, that was the beginning of the next semester, what we call second semester. I came to IIT Delhi and I didn't even unpack my trunks. I came back from elsewhere here, and the next day I was asked to teach the first year BTech course, 150 students, and that course was teaching principles of electrical engineering. And the first time when I entered the class, they knew I was a new person. I just joined. Everybody was on their feet, and it was a noisy class. And it took some time for me to realize, how to manage the class.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And then I had to talk to my mentors, my senior professors, how to evaluate the answer scripts, how to set the question papers. And then I used to prepare for 1 hour lecture, maybe 4 to 5 hours, prepare and go, because these are all bright kids.
Yeah.
One mistake you make, the whole class will be on their feet.
Yeah.
Right? So, but it doesn't have to be done that way. We can actually provide professional training to our teachers. So that is where I think we lack in our educational system. Even in IITs, you don't have a dedicated unit, a cell which trains newly recruited faculty members on classroom management, on paper setting, for example. And then most importantly, what was lacking in our educational system was complete detachment with our own past contributions. Indian knowledge systems, in various disciplines, such as medicine, astronomy, science, metallurgy, social sciences, economics, for example. In so many disciplines, Indians have contributed so much, but our kids do not know about that. How many of us, we read Panchatantra? How many of us, our kids, we might have read, I read them. How many of our kids study, for example, Mahabharata and pick up the principles of great leadership? We don't do that, right? So the objective of this training is to tell the teachers how to bring in some of those elements in our modern education also. It may be any discipline. It could be physics, it could be economics, it could be any discipline. Can we bring in some of these components of our Indian knowledge system, not to glorify it, but it is to provide a broader perspective to our students so that they can look at our Indian contributions in the modern perspective and then come up with solutions. And at the same time, we also want our students to have greater global perspective. They need to be rooted in our Indian ethos, but have a broader perspective of the world so that they can contribute immensely in making our country a leading country in solving not only our problems, but global problems also.
I want to just double click a little bit on what you said about when your time at JNU, right? And I think, for various reasons, it was in the news for a long time. And I think, connecting that with what you said about young people, that, you're usually at that age where you want to challenge authority, you want to explore a lot more, you want to have your point of view on many things. And I think there was such instance, during your tenure there where you had, Jagadesh Kumar really stand up and talk about what he thought, India should be about and his own views. And there was much turmoil at that time. And I just want to take you back to that time and ask you, how did you really navigate through that constant glare, both external in the media, but also internally, so many students looking at you, for you to preserve this very strong institute called JNU, which is a foundational to Indian culture. And many of us have studied there and, really our learnings are from there. So how did you really do that? Please take me back to that time.
You use the word challenging the authority. And before I joined in JNU, in fact, in my classrooms, I was encouraging my students to challenge the authority. I was encouraging my students to question what I am teaching in the classroom. And as a teacher, we need to do that. We need to encourage our students to be critical about the things that are imparted to them. When I say critical thinking begins with curiosity. When you are curious, questions will pop up in your mind. And then these questions will tell you that there are things that can be improved. There are things that may not be useful to a system. Now, I am talking from the electrical engineering background. If I have an electrical system, I need to critically think which is good, which needs to be fixed. Now, when I moved to JNU, I moved from electrical engineering to social sciences.
Yeah.
And precisely their students are doing the same thing. In the social context, they are challenging the authority. They are saying that in society there are certain things that need to be fixed. There are great things, but there are also other things that need to be fixed. So therefore, for me, when I moved from IIT Delhi to JNU, in fact, some people said, it's a predominantly social sciences university. How can a professor of electrical engineering head this university? So I used to tell them, I was in Waterloo University for my postdoc. It's supposed to be a top engineering university. The president of Waterloo University, he was a professor of English. And for 2 terms, he was president, right? So I used to tell them, see, the basic issues of running an educational institution, they remain same irrespective of in which discipline, the university is imparting the education.
Yeah.
The context may change. Yes, it is technology in IIT Delhi, it is social sciences here, but the challenges are same. So keeping those challenges in my mind, I realized that there are certain things that need to be fixed within the university, right? We know JNU is a great university, it's a top-ranked university, but I used to tell my colleagues that for how long can we sit in the glory of we are a great university? Look ahead, after 10 years where you will be, after 20 years where you will be, because the world is moving. There will be many other universities which will surpass you and go before you.
Yeah.
And we have seen that. We had great institutions in our country, and they are nowhere. You don't hear about those institutions.
In world rankings, nowhere.
Not only in world rankings, even within our own country, we don't talk about those universities.
Yeah.
Although they were established, well before even British left our country, right? So therefore, I told my faculty members that we must develop certain strategic objectives for our university. Where do we want to be in the coming 10 years and 20 years? Now, it's all right. So far, we have focused in social sciences and sciences. Often, sciences do not get the same kind of exposure as social sciences from JNU, but we have very good science schools there in JNU. It's all right. We have spent decades trying to become excellent in these areas, languages, social sciences, and sciences. Can we now open up? Can we move on to other disciplines and become multidisciplinary? And that was a challenge, because in educational system, what happens is anywhere globally, education is, they are within a bubble, safety net, and you try to push them outside this bubble, there will be resistance. Same thing happened in JNU. That required a lot of discussions and meeting with people at different levels, convincing them for the need of doing this. And then finally, we started a school of engineering. So everybody said, how school of engineering? Why another school of engineering? There are so many engineering schools and colleges across the country. Ours is a social sciences. Then I called the deans and others. Let's do one thing.
Yeah.
Let us start an engineering program where our engineering students will study social sciences.
Fantastic.
They will study languages. So we designed a program. It's a 5 years program First 4 years, the students will study engineering. And in 5th year, they will specialize either in languages, social sciences, or sciences if they so wish. And beforehand, they know in which area they are going to specialize in their final year. And before they do the final year study, they take the basic courses in their undergraduate program itself. Let's say they have chosen to study Japanese studies. So before they complete their undergraduate program, they will study basic courses in Japanese language and other things. And in 5th year, they will study Japanese culture, Japanese governance, business, and so on. So when we proposed this solution, everybody said, let's go for it. And we have established School of Engineering. So the point I'm trying to tell is that if, as a leader of the educational institution, if you are committed and if you are able to communicate to your stakeholders, we can bring a lot of changes. And here I would like to tell you a little bit about the meaning of this leadership. I have learned a great deal while working in JNU. I have found that in any system, there are always excellent people. And as a leader, you should have that keen eye to identify those people and put them as a team and explain to them the bigger goal that all of us should have. Then what happens, and work towards that collectively, then what happens is the other differences that we may have, we will overcome them and look at the bigger goal.
Sure.
And that is what has happened. So what I found that, and this is a message that I have been telling wherever I go and meet the vice-chancellors across the country, that the quality of leadership at the top plays a significant role. Because often I have seen that some leaders are very authoritative, very coercive. Once, I was in some institution and the head of institution was there and there was a faculty presentation for promotion. And this faculty member was making the presentation. And in the middle of that, the head of the institution, he said, "It's all nonsense," and he walked away.
Oh my God.
Right? So you can see, you can never be a good leader.
Yeah.
If you have that kind of, if that is how you treat your own colleagues, you cannot be a good leader. But then I have also come across other leaders who are transactional and rule-based. Once, in some institution it happened, I will not name it, the young faculty, he met the HOD in the corridor. And he said, "Sir, I need your signature. I am applying for leave. I have to attend a conference." And the HOD looks at that application and he says, "You please send it to my office. I will do official work only in the office." This is the kind of rule-based, rational kind of leadership. You can see the feelings that young faculty might have felt, right? One signature could have solved the problem. But what is important for us is to have leaders who are leading these institutions, who are compassionate, who have the bigger picture in front of them, and who build teams and stand by the teams. Often we think that being a good leader means making people work or making people work harder. But a good leader is one who makes the people work harder collectively. That is the key to becoming a good leader. I'll give you one simple example. From Ramayana, I will give you, right? So Rama and Lakshman, they were going in search of Sita and they reached Kishkinda. And by then Rama was very popular and the local people and the monkeys and others, they came to greet Rama and they came to know that Sita was taken away and they were going in search of them. And the local people, they say that they tell Rama, "We will come with you. We will fight Ravan and bring Sita." And Lakshman was keenly listening and he says, he calls Rama aside and he tells Rama, "These people, they are untrained. They don't even have weapons. How can they fight with you? Let us call Bharat with his big army." And Rama says, "Lakshman, no. Even if Bharat comes with his big army here, who will show them the way through this forest? Only these people. Who will feed them food? Only these people. Let's not call Bharat. I have full trust in their commitment. I will go with them and bring Sita back, and we know the history. That is the kind of trust that one should have if you want to build good teams. I'll tell you another reason why we need good leadership at the top of the organizations. Not only building trust, in times of crisis, a good leader has to stand by the team. Mistakes can happen, but give a chance for them to learn and let them know that your leader stands by you. I'll give you one simple example. There was a tribal leader living in forest, and he goes out into the forest with his team of people, some 10, 12 people, in search of food, hundreds of years ago.
Right.
So after searching for a week or 10 days, they could not find much food. And whatever they carried with them, the water and food, that was exhausted, and they were sitting under a tree and they didn't know what to do. And suddenly one person in the team stands up and he has a small pot. Half of that is filled with water. He stands up and gives to the leader.
Okay.
Leader, please drink it. The leader looks around. Is there enough water for everybody here? No, sir, only this much. Then I will not drink. Come what may, I will be with you. Those are the leadership qualities. In the times of crisis, you should stand by them, and you should trust your team members, and you should make them work harder collectively. And these are things that are required in our educational institutions also. When our vice-chancellors are selected, therefore, they must be trained enough to handle the situations, unexpected situations that will come. So in JNU, for example, you said, how did you handle? The basic principle that I followed there is that whenever something happens, don't react. You respond to it. Responding involves thinking process. Reacting is an instinct thing. It can go wrong. You may solve that problem, or it can go wrong. But when you respond, it doesn't happen. And another thing I found is that in JNU, for example, if a situation arose, I never took the decisions alone. I immediately brought together my team, and this is a challenge. Let us discuss. And let each one of you have a different opinion. I have no problem. And you disagree with me also, I have no problem. But let us brainstorm. And then you can see the churning that happens, and then you come up with a solution. And I have complete trust that after all these heads put together, when a solution emerges, that must be the right solution. And often I found that was the right solution.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I still want to get, you had you were in the hot seat when
Right.
all of this blew up, right? And I think I'm not asking you because I know I want to make this sensational, but I'm actually curious because everything that we heard around the internal turmoil that took place in JNU related to Kanhaiya Kumar and everything else that came after that, we always heard how, the students' voices were being suppressed. And, I don't think that was the case, but I want to know more from you, right?
We had created at that time several avenues for telling your opinions, your ideas, even if they are contradictory. For example, the first thing I did after I joined there was to devote one full afternoon for any student to come and discuss with me without any appointment. And groups of students used to come, discuss, contradict with me. And many students they used to come with their personal problems and then solve them, right? And every Monday afternoon. And every Tuesday afternoon, I kept it free for any staff member to come and discuss with me without any appointment. Other days, of course, my schedule will be busy. They can come and meet me, but it will take some time. And the Wednesday afternoon, I kept it open for any faculty member. You come and discuss with me. So often I think we were involved in dialogues and discussions. And it is also a fact that in an educational institution, getting 100% consensus on any issue is difficult, right? You will always have some views which may not be in tune with the larger objective for which we are working. So be it. We respect your views, but this is what we believe, that if we implement this, it is going to be good for our university. So the point is that even if there are divergent views, if you have your goal clear in your mind, and if you are able to convince majority of the people, you can bring lot of reforms in any organization. But there is a difference between being politically aware and politics.
Yeah,
These
of
were
course.
two separate things. And any student who joins in a university, in a college, they are already voters, right?
Yes.
18 years and above. So I always felt that one needs to be politically aware. And you have your own opinions, you have your own thinking process, you can do that. But my political beliefs should not affect the right of other students to pursue their own education. And this is what I was constantly telling at JNU. And you will be surprised to know that 95% of the students, they are focused in their education. And what you see in media, right, during that time, only about 5% of the students who used to participate in these protests and other things. And our endeavor as a team was to make sure that the academic processes, academic activities of the university do not suffer. And you can see the result of that. From 2016 to even now, JNU is ranked as the top university in the country. Right? Next only to Indian Institute of Science, JNU is ranked as the next best university. IISc is a deemed to be university, that's why we put it in the university list. But if you look at the top 10 institutions in the country, JNU stands among the IITs, among the top 10.
Yeah.
So we put every effort to make sure that whatever other transients that may be taking place in the university, the academic activities do not suffer. And I'm very happy to say that there are outstanding professors in the university, and the students who come to JNU, they come from such background, socially, economically weaker background. Somebody's mother could be a maid in some house. Somebody's father could be a small farmer. But I have seen personally, once they go through this education, they're completely transformed. They are confident individuals, knowledgeable individuals. And then you can see the impact of that when they come into various professions, either as a professor in universities or media or even in politics.
Yeah.
Today we have 2 ministers in the cabinet from JNU. They are all contributing immensely to the society.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we need to make sure that universities such as JNU, and there are many such universities in our country, they continue to grow, they continue to work in such a way that they are recognized as among the top universities in the world. And what else we want? Our country needs such universities in order to train our youth. One misnomer that people have, I would like to dispel that.
Please.
It's not that if somebody does from a top institution, they will have the best opportunities. Even tier 2, tier 3 institutions, the students who come from there, they are highly talented, they are highly aspirational. And you go to the Silicon Valley of India and Bangalore, in many of these multinational companies, especially in VLSI industry, that's my area of work, in semiconductor industry, you will see a lot of students coming from, you might not have heard their names, tier 3, tier 2 colleges, but they are making immense contributions. So it's not associated with the name of the university, the rank of the university, although the general perception is like that.
No, glad to hear that.
But having said that, this ranking system in India is separate as compared to the ranking system that is used globally. So we have close to about 20 ranking organizations globally, and more or less all organizations are commercial organizations. And some of the top ranking organizations, all of us know, they use certain parameters which are not compatible to our Indian situation. For example, the perception from the peers, that is about 40% weightage. And perception from the employers is 10%. And then the presence of the foreign faculty in your institution, the presence of foreign students in your institution, and then the citations of your research. So if you look at these, many of them are not, compatible with what we are doing.
And conducive for us to rank high.
Right. Because scientifically, it is known that perception cannot be measured accurately.
Not at
right? One can measure the response to a stimuli, but you can't really quantify perception. So therefore, we have been telling these organizations also that a university does many more complex things, and reducing the entire performance of a university to a single digit and say you are number 1, number 100, number 500, I think it is not a scientific way of telling what a university is doing.
Yeah.
What I would prefer is a university should focus on becoming a center of excellence. That should be our focus. And in our country itself, there are several universities which have been established with different objectives. For example, if you take IIT, we expect IIT to do top-class research, apply for patents, publish in good journals, and so on, establish startup companies. Now, look at a university which is established in a rural area where predominantly there are tribal students there, rural students there. Our first task is going to be to provide them good quality education, empower them to acquire these skills so that they can grow further in their life.
Yeah.
Now, you can't ask them how many patents have you applied, how many startup companies have you started. So these similarities in the objectives of the universities also have to be kept in mind. And some universities may become more focused on teaching. Some universities may focus more on research. So recognize those differences and don't use one-fits-all solution. And most global ranking systems do that, right? So keeping that in mind, in India, we started the National Institutional Ranking Framework in 2016. And we began with certain categories, engineering institutions, management institutions, universities, colleges, and so on. But as our experience taught us, we found that there is much more diversity than these vertical structures. So we started introducing many more variations in the ranking system. You have bigger institutions, you have smaller institutions, you have rural institutions, and so on. And then you can't use this. Perception is only 10% in our NIRF ranking. We look at teacher-student ratio, we look at infrastructure, we look at affirmative action, we look at several other issues which are more relevant to our institutions. For example, we already have a lot of digital content on our Swayam portal. Swayam is a digital portal where thousands of courses are available. And we said, suppose you are in a college located in a rural area, you find that you don't have teachers in certain emerging areas. I want to do data science, but there is nobody to teach. Now I can register in Swayam, sitting in my rural small town, and complete a 3-credit or 4-credit data science course and accumulate those credits in my regular program in my university.
Oh, that's amazing.
So these opportunities are now being created. And now we are also saying that, let's say I'm doing BA history, but I'm interested in media studies. So I can do a parallel degree whilst doing BA history in a university. I can do an online degree in media studies. And now you see my job opportunities will increase.
Yeah.
And we are also saying now that as part of the regular education, I'm taking BA history again as an example. I want to acquire certain skills which will provide me job opportunities. Let's say I want to do web design. I want to do programming. Even if I am a history student, I can acquire those credits, and that will be part of my BA history. And if I am majoring in BA history, I can have 2 minors, maybe in international relations, maybe in another area which fetches me, let's say, hotel management.
Yeah.
I want to have. So there are multitude of opportunities for students. So therefore, they should not really worry about these ranks. Whichever is closer to your hometown, whichever is closer to your home, which you can financially afford, go and join there and use this large number of opportunities that are available and become a good learner, acquire these skills, and the whole world is open to you to explore and to succeed in life.
Oh, absolutely. And just coming back to, the employability where we started, the skilling, is there also thoughts around having apprenticeship being a credit contributor to your overall course. Let's say, like you mentioned about BA history. Now, if I want to go and work with an agency that is, let's say, doing restoration work for monuments, if I do that work for 3 months, will I get a credit which I can then join in? Because that's actually making me job ready in many ways.
Correct. You're absolutely right. As I said, we need to make education aspirational. We have 4.1 crore students in our higher education. But then there are many other students who are dropping out of colleges, of schools. We need to take care of their future also. So one way of doing that is for students who are not able to reach to the universities, if they are doing, let's say, an ITI, and at the end of ITI, now can I go to a university and continue my higher education? Currently, there is no such opportunity. But now, with the implementation of the National Credit Framework, we are saying that, okay, you have done ITI, you do a couple of language courses, we will give you 12th standard certificate. And using this 12th standard certificate, you go to a university, join in a discipline that you want to study, and move forward in life. So we are providing these kind of opportunities now with the implementation of the National Credit Framework. And have you heard of a concept called RPL?
No, what's that?
Recognition of prior learning.
Of what learning?
Prior learning.
Oh, prior learning. Okay.
RPL.
Okay.
Recognition of prior learning. Let's say I am a welder. For the last 10 years, I have been doing welding.
Yeah.
Now I want to study. Now we can assess that person's abilities in welding and give a certificate which is equivalent for the welding skilled person to move on to the next level in the school or the college.
Oh, that's incredible. So many more people who maybe did not or could not because of home situations educate themselves now can come back, educate and go back into the workforce.
They can, yes. So this is what we are calling recognition of prior learning. I could be a potter making pots for so many years. Now I want to study. So I will be assessed by somebody. Okay, you have this much of proficiency. Therefore, I can assign some credits to your learning. The word credit it has two components. One is when credit is actually a measure for the learning outcomes of a student.
Yes.
Right? Do you have enough learning outcomes out of this process of learning? And then have you spent enough time during this learning process?
To be an expert, so to say.
To be given this credit for your learning. So let's say I have done a 3-credit course. That means I am attending 3-hour lectures every week for the entire semester. So there is a time associated with that. But at the end of the semester, when I sit in the exam, when I am tested, do I have the learning outcomes designed for this program? So if both are satisfied, then I get a grade and then I get the credit. So similarly, the people who have never gone to a formal school, who have done their own self-study or they are experienced in certain profession, we can assess them and give these credits. Now these credits can be, where will I keep these credits? We have now created a digital platform for the entire country. And this digital platform is called ABC, Academic Bank of Credits. So I can now register on this Academic Bank of Credits platform, digital platform, and put these credits there, like in a bank.
Wow.
And
is that ABC sort of linked to like the DigiLocker, so that there's an identity?
DigiLocker, it's linked to the other educational institutions. And then I go and do some other course, and I come back and put these credits there. As these credits accumulate, if they reach certain threshold to receive a degree, then a degree will be given to this person. So there are many such technological interventions also that we are bringing in to empower our students, whether they are in the formal education system, whether they are in the informal education system, whether you want to study in a physical mode or online mode or half in physical, half in online, you can earn these credits, you can earn the degrees, you can earn the skills. So basically, if I had to filter all these things into 3 components that we are trying to provide to all our students across the country, they are freedom, flexibility, and choices. These three we want to provide to our students, and our young people have immense potential. I'm sure when we open up our educational system, they will have large number of opportunities. However, because our old practices are so rooted in our system, within the system also you will have some people saying that, how can you do all these things? Right?
Yeah.
But
They're always the naysayers.
Right. But our country is marching ahead, and NEP 2020 is being implemented at a rapid rate. And in the coming years, you will start seeing the results of the reforms that we are introducing in higher education.
Also, one of the things as part of the NEP 2020 is also just overall mental well-being. And, I meditate, and there's an institute that I follow, a kind of technique that I follow called heartfulness. And they have been they've signed an MOU with AICTE to actually take heartfulness and meditation as a life skill.
Correct.
And make it a credit course.
Yes.
And at some point, it'll be great if you could also consider that, because I think, like you said, if you're able to develop compassion and well-being and connect with your inner self and know what you want to do,
Sure.
then the world is your oyster, right? Because you know what you need and you can just go out and get that.
Have you done any extracurricular activities when you were a student?
The problem is, sir, I only did extracurricular. I wish I had studied more.
Now you will be happy to know that there is no extracurricular in our NEP 2020. Everything is an experiential
mainstream
learning. You may be doing NCC, you may be doing NSS, you may be a good player. Everything is part of learning, everything is part of crediting. So there is no boundary of this is curricular, this is extracurricular. Everything is curricular.
So you as a package, and the whole person who comes in with whatever they come in is taken care at an overall level. That's amazing.
And also the issue of, you see so many students undergoing stress, right? You heard of so many students harming themselves, right? Self-harm.
Yeah,
right?
Suicide in IITs,
right.
I mean, it's...
Right. So how do we make sure that students come out of this? One is that when students have some issues, are we addressing them in a time-bound manner? Or as a system, are we ignoring them? And when you ignore them, the problem gets compounded, and the student thinks that I'm an individual, there is a whole system against which I have to work, so therefore I feel helpless, and then I self-harm. So therefore, what we are doing now is to introduce many of these activities, yoga, meditation, encouraging students to participate more in sports, so that you have those social connections with people, right? When you go and play in a playground, you're meeting so many people. And then creating this feeling in their minds that there is nothing wrong in seeking help, right? So whether it is a mental issue, mind-related problem, or physical problem, what is wrong in seeking help?
Yeah.
You should go out. Maybe you have a couple of friends with whom you can talk, or your teacher, your parents and friends, and so on. Seek help. So this is what we are trying to tell our students. And then from the institutional perspective, we are saying that all educational institutions should give top priority to resolve the grievances of the students. So this year alone, we brought out a new regulation. This regulation says that the university should have grievance redressal committees at every level, maybe at the department level and at the university level. And then every university has to appoint an ombudsperson. If this grievance redressal committee is unable to resolve, the student should be able to go to the ombudsperson, and then they should resolve. And if if it is not resolved, the students can approach UGC so that we will resolve. And you will be happy to know that currently nearly about 700 universities have appointed these student grievance redressal committees and also the ombudsperson. And we are pursuing with the other universities also. We will ensure that students will have an environment in the institution where they can freely pursue their interests, and if they have any issues, any grievances, those grievances are addressed in a time-bound manner.
No, very encouraging to hear that. What I want to ask you, since you spoke a lot about digital, there are already many large digital organizations which are in very many ways, in very efficient ways also, imparting a lot of the knowledge that you spoke about. Does the government want to do everything by themselves, or is the ability for existing players who are already doing this well to come on board and partner with you and in some capacity unlock the value that they have, because they have the technology, they have the content, but you have the skill. So can that marriage take place?
Absolutely. No, this is what we describe as micro-credentials. Micro-credentials are certain skills that I want to learn as part of my regular degree program.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 credits, maybe 12 credits. But my college doesn't have those the ability to impart those micro-credentials. So can I take it from somebody else who provides these micro-credentials? So today there are many industries which offer, such as Microsoft, edX, and many such organizations.
Khan Academy, so many others.
Many are there.
Yeah.
And then many universities are also offering these micro-credentials which are focused on providing skills to the students. So you are right. I think we are now reforming our educational system to take on board the digital content that becomes available at different levels. One is the IITs and some of the best institutions that we have. They will be preparing the digital content. We will onboard that. And then there are great industries which will provide these micro-credentials. There is a need to bring them also on board. And then you also have international universities, which our students can access from here. So is there a way in which we can access that also through a formalized structure so that our students can gain those credits and use them for obtaining their degrees? So this multidimensional approach is what we are working on. Yeah.
Amazing. Last 2 questions, because I'm enjoying this conversation a lot. But since you mentioned foreign institutions, now you're also opening up the country for many foreign institutions to come in. How are you seeing the landscape change with that? And will they also come under the UGC in terms of the regulator, or what are some of the challenges they'll have to navigate around?
You see, internationalization of education is not new to India. We had great universities like Nalanda, Takshila, where many foreigners came and studied. And then Indians are also known to travel across the globe. They went on their ships. They took our culture, they took our pulses, they took our knowledge, they spread across the globe. And today also we have so much of Indian diaspora across the globe. They're experts in various domains, and they are even in the governments of those local countries, wherever they are living, and they nicely integrate with the local society there, right? So it's our Indian diaspora is our country's pride. So this keeping our doors open and learning from each other is something inbuilt in our Indian culture, right? NEP 2020, therefore, when it says about internationalization of our education, it looks at both sides of this flow of knowledge. One is our Indian institution should be able to go globally and then impart our high quality education there. So already we have 2 IITs, IIT Delhi in Abu Dhabi and IIT Madras in Tanzania. So they have opened their campuses, and many other institutions also will follow the route. The other one is bringing more students into our country. So currently we have about 45,000 international students studying in India. 45,000.
Okay.
But that's a very small number, tiny number. We need to increase that number. So what UGC has done, that UGC has given this freedom to the educational institutions to create 25% of supernumerary seats in their educational institutions, right?
Okay.
If I'm admitting 100 students in BA Economics, I can admit 25 additional foreign students in economics class, right? And we have also said that every faculty member can guide 2 international PhD students over and above the limits put by UGC, all right? 8 students, a professor can guide Indian students, but you can also guide over and above that 2 international students. So what is required to increase these numbers from 45,000 to maybe 4.5 lakhs is for our educational institutions to form teams of institutions and then project our education in the foreign countries. That is not happening currently.
Yeah.
The foreign universities come here. They arrange workshops here, they arrange melas and invite students and talk about their programs.
And attract the best.
Attract. So why not our educational institutions do? If you think that you are alone, you cannot do alone, form teams of 10 universities, 20 universities, go around the globe and attract our students.
Yeah.
So that is one. And the other one is we need to make our country a global hub for education. International students have to come here. It has a lot of advantages. One, of course, is when these students go back to their countries, they become our ambassadors because they understand our Indian culture, our Indian society, and so on. The other advantage is that for our students, that global perspective will come. They will form lifelong bonds with these students who are going back there.
Yeah.
And imagine a student from India and a student from abroad who has studied in India, both of them become ambassadors in their respective country. They will recall their old bonds and you can see how things can move.
True.
So it has a lot of advantages. How now the foreign universities, how to collaborate with the foreign universities to provide additional opportunities to our students to access international education. So one of the things that we have done, last May we issued a regulation which provides the opportunity for our universities to sign MOUs with the international universities for twinning, joint and dual degree programs. And you will be glad to know that nearly 50 universities have already signed these MOUs.
Oh.
The meaning of twinning, joint, dual degree is a student can go for a semester or 2, study in a foreign university, come back and continue your education here.
Right, like you do an INSEAD where you do like 2 sessions in France and then 2
Correct.
somewhere in
Correct.
Singapore. Got
You
it.
can do that. And the advantage of this is, see, in India, all of us, we spend our life savings on our children's education, right? And while some parents may be able to send their kids for entire 4-year duration, there may be other parents who may like to send for a semester or 2 because of their financial situation. And all such students who do not have the financial means can actually benefit through this twinning, joint and dual degree program. And then, why are we inviting the foreign universities to set up campuses in India? We have just announced the new regulation for this. So many people ask me, is it to reduce the number of students who are going abroad? Currently, 7 to 8 lakh students are going. I said, no. These students who will continue to go because ours is a democratic country. Wherever there are better opportunities, our students will continue to go there. But however, there are also maybe equal number of students or double that number of students who do not have the financial means to go abroad. Now, if I bring a foreign university campus here, those students will have an opportunity to study in this campus and get a foreign degree. And this degree will have the same opportunities in the host country as if the foreign degree is giving the degree in the host country. And these students will have the same higher education, employability opportunities in our country. So therefore, it will open up a new window for our students to study in a foreign university. And that's the reason why we are bringing up this regulation. And there is a lot of interest. Many countries have approached us, mainly from Australia, Europe, UK, and United States. Many teams are meeting us. We have started an online portal for this purpose.
Okay.
Already some universities have registered there. Once their application process is complete, we have a standing committee which will examine this application process, and within 60 days they will give their recommendations, and then the commission will look at the recommendations and give their approval. And once the approval is given, the university will have 2 years time to set up their campus, recruit the faculty members, and then they come to us and say, we are ready now to start. And
Amazing.
UGC will then give the green signal. So
Okay.
we hope that in next 1 or 2 years, the foreign university campuses will start working.
Yeah. No, financial constraints. And the other constraint also, I think for girls and women in general is also safety, right? Very often parents don't allow their daughters to go because they want them to be in closer physical proximity. And I think, therefore, if these international institutes are also in the country, you are at equal footing where you can go and get the same education and you're not really going out of the country, you're not leaving India.
Well, the primary reason of bringing this is, our in our educational institutions, we have now nearly 50% of the students are female students.
Yeah.
And they are doing very well. They are traveling across the globe, getting into good institutions. So the primary objective of establishing these campuses is to open up other opportunities to our students.
Yeah.
That's the primary reason. And we hope that this will provide an opportunity for our Indian educational institutions also to have greater research collaborations with the foreign university campuses. And then that in many foreign universities, our Indians are in top positions.
Yes.
They're great professors.
Professors, yeah.
Today,
Deans.
They're deans of, famous schools.
Yeah.
Right? If they want to come here to India and stay for 6 months or 1 year, currently there are no opportunities.
Right.
But if a top foreign university establishes their campus, they can come and work here. And they are in India, but they are in the same system of
Yes.
their main campus. So, and then they also happen to be alumni of a local institution. So they can go there and establish even stronger collaborations between this foreign university and Indian university. So there are multiple advantages of bringing these foreign universities, because these campuses can also admit students across the globe, not only Indian students.
That's true.
So therefore, students will have this global experience of interacting with foreign faculty members and developing lifelong bonds with our foreign students.
Yeah, it'll become like a melting pot, like you see
Right.
all of the other cities in the
Absolutely.
country, like a New York or others, which become like that. Will there also be opportunities for, let's say people like me who are in corporate jobs to come in and do a lot of guest lectures? Because I know that's a big opportunity again in international institutes, and many students gain from it. So right now you do that with individual institutions,
Okay.
but I don't think that is there a UGC level policy on this where there can be X number of industry experts coming in to coach or to teach people, because it again circles back to the employability, right? Because you learn from people who are on the job, solving problems, and also they can pick brains of students in solving real challenges in the world. So you really get to know what's happening out there.
Actually, there is so much of expertise in different domains in our country. Imagine somebody who has built Konkan railways.
Yeah.
He managed such huge project. Imagine that person coming and joining in an institution. But that person doesn't have a PhD. He has not produced any research publications.
Or stood for that NET exam that you have. Oh my God.
He never
Yeah.
attempted those.
Yeah.
But he's a great person, right? So how do we take advantage of such large expert pool that we have in our country?
Yes.
So recently we have come up with a policy known as Professor of Practice policy, and the universities can appoint up to 10% of their faculty strength as a supernumerary position. And these experts, they only need to have 15 years of demonstrated professional experience.
Okay.
And if they have that, they can be appointed in any university. And you can see the impact of that when the students interact with such experienced people, the ideas flowing back and forth. It can enrich the educational experience of our students.
And the industry experience for people like us, because we are also looking for out of the box thinking, creative thinking, newer solutions, which we sometimes get so colored with because we have been in the industry for so long. So there are some fresh ideas that emerge from students. So for sure, I mean, I think that'll be wonderful.
Another important aspect that we need to recognize is when you bring such experts who have worked for long in industry and in other professions, media and other places, when they come into the educational institutions, they provide this opportunity for networking.
Yes.
Right? Because they have huge contacts in the industry, and often as academicians we may not have, and you bridge that gap and bring people together, and that can lead to better industry academia collaborations.
And I'm seeing some of this happening, but a lot of it is only in private institutions, right? Like there's an institute in Gurgaon called Masters Union. They teach their education ethos is around the fact that you bring in experts from the industry, and they really teach you and coach you above and beyond what your regular education is. And I think that's unlocking a lot of value for students in their learning process, because they're working on real world problems as opposed to something which is just in the books or theoretical.
We have developed a portal for industry, any professional to register on the portal, giving their details.
Okay.
And the universities also can register on our portal, and a matchmaking can happen.
Fantastic.
And I'm surprised to see that even government colleges are now appointing POPs.
Yeah.
And I see their advertisements on our UGC portal. So I think this will become a movement in the coming years, and it will pick up. And many of these experts will be part of our educational systems.
And also a part of the goal, right? You want to see India as a Vishwa Guru, and I think all of this collaboration will bring all of that together to unlock this value that we're looking at.
Correct.
Incredible.
Yeah.
One other regulatory question, which is, there are lots of these colleges and private institutes that pop up. People invest their life savings in that as parents because they want their best education for their children. And by the time you get to know that it is an institute which is not worth its salt, your money has already gone down, and there is really no real redressal, or maybe there is, but we don't know.
Okay.
So can you just help us understand, if there are these institutes, how is the UGC thinking about regulating them? If there is a challenge, can people come in and really write to you, or what is the redressal mechanism that is there if parents have lost money?
Right. No, this is an important issue as a parent, even for the students also. Because as parents, we want our kids to join, in the best institution possible so that they get good education. So in the process, we apply to multiple institutions, and to make sure that I at least have an assured seat, you admit the kid somewhere. But later you find that in some other interesting discipline, in a better institution, you got admission. What will the student do now? Now, the student has to, if the student goes to the other institution, the student has to forego whatever fee that they have paid, right? So that can be an economic burden to the parents. So we have come up with the guidelines on that also, and we are enforcing it very seriously across the country, that if a student moves to the other university within certain deadlines that we have defined, a full refund has to be done. And after the deadline, if the student leaves, again, within certain deadlines, you deduct maybe 10%, but return the other amount to the student. And you will be glad to know that thousands of students have approached us, and they got the refunds.
Incredible.
Running into several crores of rupees. And there is another thing also. Okay, I got stuck in this university. I will study for first year. And then next year, I find that in another university, in second year, some vacancies have come because those students might have migrated elsewhere. Now, I can move to the other university through a process called lateral entry. And this is the part of this multi-entry, multi-exit system. So therefore, now we are telling our universities that even if a student has gone to some other university, even if you had to refund that fee, it doesn't mean that this vacancy will be carried on to the final year and that will remain vacant.
Yeah.
In second year, you attract other students, use some transparent admission process and fill up those processes. So largely across the country, all institutions are following this, and we are very strictly enforcing this.
Great. This is incredible. What's next for you? I know you have something very exciting tomorrow. I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, tomorrow we have a nationwide meeting with the vice-chancellors and students, where our Prime Minister will be speaking about Viksit Bharat, because we have set a goal to develop our country fully by 2047. And it is the young people, the young generation who will contribute for developing our country. So the Prime Minister wants to have a direct communication with our young people, and the Prime Minister will be launching a portal where students from across the country can give 3 ideas on the portal and also suggest how they can contribute to realize these ideas.
Yeah.
So tomorrow in each governor's office across the country in all states, the vice-chancellors are called. The Prime Minister will speak live and then take questions and answers also. And we are also asking all the universities and colleges to arrange a live streaming of this program tomorrow in some auditorium or a lecture hall, so that the young people will get connected to the ideas of making our country fully developed.
Yeah.
And this development has to be inclusive development. This development has to be, even as it was discussed in G20, it has to be women-led development. It has to be youth-led and development. So some of these ideas will be discussed in tomorrow's program.
Fantastic. And what is your own long-term vision? I mean, you're going to be around for a few more years, and thank God, and I hope you get an extension because we need leaders like you to really transform our education system. So what are you really going to focus on? I know you've shared most of it, but is there anything else that you feel, even on a personal front, which you are personally very committed to?
Right. You know, there is a saying, it says, nothing gets done in future. You have to focus on the present.
Yeah.
So when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that comes in my mind is UGC. What is that we are going to do today? We, of course, have a bigger picture of where we want to go as a roadmap. NEP 2020 has provided that roadmap. But I am a person who constantly lives in the present because present is the only time where you can do something.
Very well said. Thank you so much for sharing so many insights. I think you've painted that beautiful picture of what our education system can look like for every young Indian to unlock their own dream and participating in national building. So thank you so much for sharing so many of these insights. And it's been a pleasure having you. And I hope we can keep talking on many other fronts in the future as well.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And thank you for asking those probing questions.
You did a good job avoiding many of them, but but that's okay. I'll let you go. Thank you so much.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, one philosophy I follow.
Yes.
With all the media people. So I tell them, you ask any question that you want to
Right.
ask.
I'll give any answer I want.
I'll give the answer that I want to give.
Well, you followed that to the last T today.